on red. And what is going to be the reply? I think at this point, JiaQi's Kaisa is pretty much like a Gala Kaisa type of situation, where maybe you just lock it in no matter what. You might choose to play more for heavy dive sort of compositions. However, Aurora and Yone both banned away on blue side versus Tangyuan, and JiaQi is just gonna instantly lock in that Kaisa. Talks happening with milkyway right here. They could be looking to lock in some sort of jungle. Naafiri is gonna be taken out of the picture. So Wukong is one of the big champions. Grapes, are you here with me?
I think I'm back. I don't know what happened there. I was practicing my,
welcome back.
Like, standstill dance moves for a little bit, but I think we're back into this one. As thank you for carrying the show for a little bit. We got the draft for AL versus RNG.
Oh, thanks for being
here
back.
Right now. As yeah, I mean, walk us through what exactly has happened. I'm surprised to see this Kaisa locked in so early for JiaQi. I mean, that was an R5 last game.
Right? Ooh, and actually, Hope and Kael hitting them with one of the strongest 2v2 bot laners, Kalista Renata. Nico would make so much sense right here because he actually can go up against the Kalista Renata duo. And milkyway, one of his OG champions, when he first came out back in 2024 in a tier 1 team over in the LPL, Wukong, Kindred, Lee Sin were his 3 primary champions that he would carry games with. But right here, he has a lot of setup to actually get Kaisa into that backline.
Yeah, and so, well, let's take a look at what the response is now. Try to face off against what, again, is another very heavy engaged composition for RNG, right? Like, Milky Way can go in. Niket, I think, has had very good Nico games throughout the group stage as well. And we all know what JiaQi is able to do on this Kaisa. Very similar playstyle to what RNG whipped out last game. The bans are starting to come through. There's that Vi taken away. Tarzan, always a jungler that is able to make impact very early and very often. And we can see those two champions kind of telling that story right here.
Yeah, very important. Take a lot of those setup champions off of Tarzan. The Poppy was, of course, banned in the first 3. And now you're taking away the Vi and the Skarner. A lot of follow-up can come through those champions. And Tarzan has been an absolute smurf in terms of setting up these skirmishes and team fights later on and early on in the game for his team. So making sure that you deprive him of that. Now, RNG right here are going to have to blind pick, not first pick, rather. Either their mid or their top. And this could very easily be a flex. However, Galio is a very, very good champion to go up against the Rumble over on the tops of the map. A lot of them are inherently in his kit, and he also has a lot of push to go up against the Rumble.
So it's a classic matchup we've seen up there in the top lane as that counter. We'll see what the response is here for AL. The Rise has really risen up in priority since Split 2 has begun, a champion with that semi-global, and it's going to be locked in for Shanks here on 4. Still looking for that jungler for Tarzan, as he knows he's going into that Wukong. But there's already a lot of magic damage being stacked up here for AL, so you're looking for probably some sort of AD skirmisher that can help bridge this early game here for AL.
All right, let's say it's going to be the Xin Zhao. Hear me out. Hear me out. It starts with Kata, ends with Rina. Really, really good into the Rise. Both sides of the map does not have a lot of CC to deal with it, and you got perma roam with Wukong and Galio. I know it's not going to be the case. However, Tangyuan's 2 most played champions have already been banned out in the likes of Aurora and Yone. So what is going to be the case right here? Do you want to pivot the Galio into the mid lane? I would have rather seen potentially a different champion for Tangyuan and having that Galio top. However, it's not going to be the case. It's a mid lane Galio playing that mid jungle duo together with Milky Way, potentially looking to punish Shanks on that Rise in the mid lane.
We'll see if it ends up working out. I mean, that's a typical matchup that you would play into the Rumble, right? With that Galio locked in. But it seems like with the Rise for Shanks, they want to try to match that semi-global ultimate. As soon as the Realm Warp can come in, a Hero's Entrance can be followed by Tangyuan to make it an even fight in one of these side lanes. And it kind of buys into that scrap mentality that we want to see RNG play with, right? Going for fights a little bit earlier than they did last time against Ultra Prime, and just really forcing AL to be on their heels, be on their toes, I guess, like just ready for anything at any given moment. And again, RNG, another situation where they really need this win in order to have their chance at locking a spot in the Ascension stage.
But I do like what AL have drafted for themselves right here, particularly in the jungle. You're looking at Tarzan. He is the facilitator in the early, mid, and late game. He has been a pivotal gear in the whole of AL machine in game in terms of creating opportunities for themselves. And Xin Zhao is an early game ganker. He's an early game invader. So the slight priority in lanes, and you bet you will be finding Tarzan in your jungle. milkyway might also have PTSD because he found Junhao in his jungle pretty often in the previous game as well. So I would like to see an RNG that plays more selflessly. Either milkyway sacrifices himself to try and gank for his lanes, or his lanes play for him.
I feel like I'd like to see the latter, especially with the Galio here for Tangyuan.
Very true.
If you can get this Wukong ahead, I mean, we've seen what he's been able to do on it with the lead. He's able to 1v9 games, even on a team like FPX last year, who didn't necessarily find the most success in terms of game record. This guy specifically is the reason that a lot of people were excited about RNG coming in back with the team that loaned him out last season. And we're into game to see if we have an opportunity to get themselves right back to a 3-3 record.
There's 2 Kaisas on the map, guys. Oh my god, now there's 2 Ambessas. What is happening? I'm not gonna lie. Nico has been in the game for many, many years. I still do. I still go, wow. When I see 2 champions, I'm like, what is happening in this game? And I'm like, oh yeah, well, you know, it's a Nico classic.
I've had the instance of like, oh, why is Kaisa like laning in the mid lane? And I realized it's Nico like transformed to the Kaisa body. Yeah.
Wait, they swapped?
What is this new technology from this team? But no, it's just Nico. But here we are. In this matchup here, you can already see some early aggression potentially from Flandre, trying to just spot out milkyway. Really nice ward. We'll be able to spot him whenever he ends up going to that Raptor camp.
Flandre, another AP top laner on the top side of the map. Grasp onto Xiaoxu as well. Again, in a melee matchup, when you are playing particularly AD, Grasp is a very good weapon to stack into melee champions. I just lost my English for a second right there. Excuse me, guys. However, I would like to see how this bot lane kind of goes, because Kaisa is a very short-range AD carry. JiaQi played under his tower for majority of the game versus Ultra Prime, and I feel like AL is a team that will not let you come back. They will not let you breathe. They will not give you the 50-50 opportunities at objective. So I want to see how this lane will go now that you have paired it up with the Nico, which is a very untraditional pairing, if you will, with the Kaisa. It's just right there to create a lot more opportunities to play and poke and push up against a Kalista Renata combo.
I mean, this is one of the strongest bot lanes that we had in the LPL last season. Kael specifically, I think, really having a standout split after being kind of a middling support in the LPL and maybe even the LCK when he was there. But as you said, like, if RNG fall behind the way that they did against UP, against the reigning LPL finalists,
oh, he's going to walk in.
It's going to be much harder. It's going to be much harder for them.
Oh, Tarzan is going to walk straight in, but milkyway is very, very clever. This is very obvious, right? Kalista Renata bot lane is one of the strongest bot. You literally just mentioned it ever in the LPL. Milkyway, don't do it. Milkyway, go and grab the camps on the top side of the map. You have priority. Don't press your B button. Oh, dear.
Okay, well, he forces at least a flash out of Shanks. However, he's going to pay for it with at least that blue buff likely under threat. Tarzan actually did not take any of these camps, or at least start hitting any of them finally onto the Gromp, but he's a little late to this.
I think they're going to trade the blue buff potentially and the Gromp right here for Tarzan, so he still managed to get something away. A lot of pressure for that AL bot lane.
Wow.
Oh, JiaQi.
Handshake did connect. Looks like was forcing at least the heal and the flash. 2 summoner spells as those jungle camps were also traded. milkyway does get his blue buff, but now has to be around the bottom side in case a dive ends up going through.
Tarzan is just one step ahead right here. The fact that he knows that his top side of the map has been untouched, he can actually take that Scuttle Crab, press B, get back on the map. Now Flandre's gonna pressure Xiaoxu out of that top lane as well, so you can come back with items, take that top lane Scuttle Crab as well, and then continue. However, they are looking for a dive. milkyway has come back with pretty high HP.
Oh, that's already first blood. Picked up here for Tarzan. It is traded 1-for-1 as milkyway able to secure the trade. Teleport is coming in, though. That is Tangyuan looking to join the fray and make it a numbers advantage for RNG. Kael has to flash away from that E of the Nico. And at least it is an even go of things. However, AL getting that mid-prio as well as getting that first blood.
Yeah, both junglers with a kill right there. Tarzan and milkyway, the beneficiaries from that bot lane skirmish. JiaQi dived underneath his tower, and that's exactly what we meant by AL will not forgive you being under tower. They will dive you, they will shut you down. However, the beneficiary right here is milkyway a little bit because she actually manages to get potentially a skull crab towards the top side of the map. None of the two have actually been taken away from either AL or RNG. milkyway is going to stick to taking his Krugs on the top side of the map. This could potentially be in contest on the Scuttle Crabs. If you are Tarzan, you want to make your way down bot lane again as fast as possible. JiaQi is not going to have flash or barrier for the time being.
Yeah, very easy target, especially pre-6 on that Kaisa. We'll see if Tarzan is able to get there fast enough. Also has those grubs spawning in less than a minute if they want to prioritize that instead. If you still see milkyway hovering around here, let's try to see if Hope gets caught out. Looks like instead, or sorry, yeah, gonna head back to base and then start over.
As you see, Tarzan grabbing the Skull Crab on the top side of the map, heading straight towards the bot side. The bot side, sorry. We'll start with his Raptors. He does have entrance in the river if he wants that. If he wants that, as the duo is no longer in that bot lane for RNG, and Hope and Kael will be pressuring out that wave. Tarzan will now spot potentially the Scuttle Crab in this area, and Nico will spot Tarzan as well, but this is not going to change what's going to happen. Double Scuttle right here for AL, and a great start, a great early game, about 1,000 gold up. Well, 600 right there, right now. But they're looking again to deprive JiaQi. One-Dry Plating already gone.
Yeah, we saw, again, RNG be in a situation like this last game. However, might be a little bit harder to come back against a team like Anyone's Legends, who have been so dominant early on in this season, other than that one loss to RNG. But I will say their early game was a little bit worse than in that matchup than they're facing right now. Already up 800 gold, as you said, 600 gold or so. They're going to get their opportunity to hit onto this Hextech Dragon. Looks like milkyway is aware of it, though, and is going to trade for the grubs on the top side.
Yeah, and milkyway will be on vision, so they are aware of what's happening right here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Tarzan actually beeline through that mid lane. The TP will also come through from Flandre with his first back as well. However, I think the Void Grabs might already be long gone, so Tarzan's just actually going to look towards the bottom of the map, place a ward over in the Tri-Brush. You see, Kael and Hope have absolute dominance over the bottom of the map, and is to be expected, especially when you draft for Renata Kalista.
Especially with Tarzan spending so much time down here as well, right? Looking for another potential dive on the bottom lane.
No
JiaQi
flash.
Still doesn't have his flash, although the barrier is back up. We'll see who starts the initial engage. It looks like it's going to be Tarzan dashing forward first when it becomes lightning, and the knockup does connect. There's the Fate Shield as well. Really nicely timed from Hope as they juggle the turret aggro perfectly, and that results in JiaQi going down without a flash. Now, in the bottom
Shanks.
side as well, looks like the knockup onto Shanks connects, and at least Xiaoxu able to get one back.
Hold up, there's so many question marks right here. Why is Shanks at Milky Way's blue buff at that point? I think he was trying to look maybe to join the fight down bot lane if Tangyuan joined with the Galio. However, wasn't quite in range. Yet another great, very great executed dive, as you mentioned as well, from the side of AL. And this time the kill does go onto Hope's Kalista, pulling now 600 gold up. Very, very close to that Blade of the Ruin King. The swap is going to come through from the side of AL, putting that bot towards the top side of the map, mirroring JiaQi.
Yeah, and I guess the reason that Xiaoxu was there to pick up that kill onto Shanks in the first place is because it looked like RNG wanted to get the hell out of that bottom lane matchup because it was not working too well for them after that dive. But it looks like AL going to just immediately match them up here. Nice teleport from Flandre to at least make sure that he doesn't lose too much on that bottom side as well. So AL still slight gold lead at this point. A lot of it is focused on that bottom side, though, as the rest of the map doing okay if you're an RNG fan.
And Milky Way just now hitting that level 6. This is the difference between the Xin Zhao and the Wukong. They're pretty much like quote-unquote kind of the same champion. They both do the same thing. However, Wukong really does rely, especially when you don't have a lot of setup in your lanes, for that level 6 Cyclone to actually get that CC down, to get the targets to stick. And RNG are looking to fight for that Skull Crab.
It looks like they're not going to be able to do too much, though, around it. Tarzan, very, very powerful here, smites that one away. And especially with the bot lane prio going AL's way in addition to that, makes it even more difficult to try to find any sort of skirmish here. So RNG, they're going to have to play the right cards, not just any card right now, because I think if they go for a fight against this Kalista Renata, it's going to be very tough for them to win.
Yeah, however, it's a little worrying sort of falling behind a team like AL who played the map so beautifully, specifically when you have a Kalista that's actually pulling ahead of the curve right here, getting that blade of the Ruin King. You can actually pin around the map, take her towards objectives, secure the objective. So it's going to be a very tough task for RNG, who, luckily for them, they have managed to secure these 3 Void grabs over the Dragon, the handshake on the first neutral objective spawn, if you will. And I feel like RNG just want to stall for JiaQi to get his 2 to 3 items, because they know and trust that when his Kai'Sa is locked in with 3 items, he can really turn fights around.
You've just clipped the 10-minute point of this game. Hey, it's a better early start for RNG than their last game against Ultra Prime, right? It's only a 500 gold deficit. So we're winning there. And again, I think we just have to remember what this RNG team is capable of doing in these team fights with this similarly structured composition, right, Trouble? With JiaQi on the Kai'Sa, he's been able to pop off in these 5v5s, even though he's had a tough time in this lane so far. And I really like the setup of the Wukong Galio as well. You can throw that ultimate Cyclone forward and then have Tangyuan dash right on top of it. It buys so much space and allows for a really nice engage.
And I feel like right here, what's very, very important, other than the engage, is the item completions. Sundered Sky completed. Blade of the Ruin King completed. AL actually looking strong on that first reset. And the second set of Void grabs is spawning in just about 10 minutes. Hope has already made his way up top to the and Kael has already started placing a little bit of deep vision behind that Void grab's pit. You definitely want to be taking away at least 1 Void grab to not give that extra take on the feats of strength are there for the neutral objectives. Very importantly, Kraken Slayer also completed for JiaQi on the other side, as well as Eclipse for Xiaoxu, who does have the TP. He's going to expend it towards that bottom of the map. And if you look on your minimaps right now, Flandre is on his way towards that mid lane. Could potentially be looking for a 4 versus 5 in favor of AL.
Yeah, so no opportunity for RNG to fight a 5v5 around these grubs, as you mentioned. So looks like Tarzan should be able to at least even things up at 3-3 in that department, and maybe even look for more, as Niket might be caught out a little bit here. Nice dodge away from the handshake, and he's going to be able to get a nice chunk onto Hope to prevent any further retaliation. But it is the top side right now, dominated by AL. The Dragon, though, has just spawned, and we'll see what RNG want to do around there.
Oh, how good are you at math? How good are you at math, AL? There is an extra creep right there. He knows. Kael instantly
Oh boy, an extra
the
melee minion? It must be my lucky day.
Yeah, the spacing actually looked a little bit off from Niket. He's going to have to work on his geometry just a little bit on where to stand if he wants to become a melee minion. And Kael read straight through that. You saw milkyway waiting just about around as well. And this is what AL are going to have to deal with for the rest of the game, right? They're going to have to actually count their creeps as Tangyuan takes a huge chunk of damage from that rumble.
And now Tarzan here as well. Oh man, the overheated Flame Spitter just does so much, even to the champion that's supposed to counter him. Taunt comes out, shield Duran, but Tarzan's going to be able to match it very nicely with the dash forward and force the flash out of the Galio. That is now priority on the bottom half of the map for AL, as the Dragon is still available. Milkyway, though, going to try to maybe do something about it as he spots the Jin Zhao out. However, he is still very outnumbered because none of his teammates are here just yet.
Yeah, and if you look on the top side of the map, Shanks can join, has TP. However, JiaQi is also pinned on the top side of the map. Dragon has already spawned, and Kai'Sa is still on the top side. So I feel like for RNG, this is another hands-off for that neutral objective. Give it over to AL. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, Grapes. This is a little bit scary when you give so much stuff over to AL.
Yeah.
Because they actually know how to capitalize in the later on fights. They do not take necessarily a lot of 50-50s. So given all this ease of execution in the early neutral objectives is going to be a little bit scary. Tangyuan is around, maybe the 50-50. Oh my god, the legend! The legend!
That's against a Kalista. You just yoinked that away.
The legend! The legend that is Milkyway doesn't need a team. Leave the Kai'Sa top lane, get her on a reset, who cares? Just 50-50 that. Okay.
TY for leash. Type that in all chat at the end, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
thank you,
oh
yeah.
my goodness.
Respect.
He just popped out of vision from that bush, pressed the D button, walked away. No
I
other
don't think he even
questions
popped out of
asked.
vision. I think he W'd. Did he?
I mean, maybe that's actually right, because if he was invisible, that would have been pretty hard for him
That
to
would
figure
be even
that
fun.
out.
It's like, wait, who stole that? Who took it? We didn't see anyone.
Wait, Tarzan, you smited that, right?
We'll
let's
have a
kind of look.
replay. Oh, he got wait, he didn't get spotted. Hold up. Show us. He did
No,
come out of
he
vision,
didn't even
you're
W.
right. The Giga Chad just walks up, smite, leaves, refuses to elaborate. Okay.
And that's against Tarzan too, right? Like one of the best junglers that we have in the LPL. I feel like he's known for being clutch in these moments.
Hey, listen. In 2024, Tarzan was known to not have a smite button, though, in those 50-50s.
Okay.
So, it's not the hardest thing, apparently, to steal a neutral objective of Tarzan. Okay, Shanks.
That was a good chat. We might look for another one here. Shanks splashes away from the taunt of Tangyuan. So another nice attempt at a play, although it's not going to result in too much. As on the other side of the map, Xiaoxu and Niket force back, giving Flandre a lot of time on that bot tier 1.
Yeah, and I just want to mention also that JiaQi has been freed a little bit to play. Hope.
Oh, we got our requisite 1v1 potentially. JiaQi always goes for it around this time of the game. However, Hope's able to use the barrier and dash his way out.
So that is a flash down on the rise and a barrier down onto Hope's Kalista. The TP is being pulled on the bottom of the map. The Galio's arriving.
Oh, wow, Kael already getting locked down here. Equalizer comes above from Flandre. However, will it be enough? Hero's entrance comes out alongside the public execution, and that's an overheated Rumble getting taunted up by the Galio and taken down. RNG winning the team fight. They've already gotten themselves 3. And now Shanks on the run, going to try to jump into the realm warp, but Tangyuan's going to match it. Ooh. Land that shield of Duran, the Justice Punch, knock him all which ways, and allow for milkyway to finish the triple kill.
What a fantastic play from RNG. We requested that they play more aggressive earlier on in the game from the previous one we just saw, and that's exactly what they do. They hit the item breakpoints, Trinity Force, level 6 from milkyway, does have the ultimate, sets up beautifully, and a great flank TP from Tangyuan. Let's watch this one more time. Look at the bot side of your screens. The TP from Galio all the way to the bot side, and when you pin people in that tri-brush of death, that Galio ult was absolutely deadly. A great setup from Xiaoxu to pin down the Rumble as well. And as you see, Tangyuan right here is going to start to walk away because Shanks is going to use his teleport to escape. But Tangyuan will be there to capitalize onto that. 4 kills going over to RNG. And if it depended on their shoulders to take that victory, RNG are in a pretty good way to get there.
And as we talked about, Trouble, fighting around these little skirmish points whenever it's possible in a 5v5 situation is how you take down a Titan like Anyone's Legends, who made it to the LPL Finals just a couple of months ago for RNG's sake. Again, if they win this game, it creates a lot of chaos in this group. It makes the Ultra Prime versus Thundertalk matchup we're about to have next even more important for all parties involved. As, you know, they could do it here, Trouble. Like, if you're RNG, taking 2 games off of AL, that is certainly a confidence builder, even if it doesn't mean you immediately end up in that Ascension group.
AL came into this group to establish dominance, to show how they're back and how they've evolved from the LPL Finals from Split 1. And RNG, back to back, if they can pull the win right here, will be the only team in this group that has been able to consistently beat AL in their own game. Now, of course, there is immense scaling with the Rise and the Rumble, and Hope is very close to his second item as well onto that Kalista. However, a 2-item Ambessa. Xiaoxu had an incredible performance on the Rumble in our previous game, and let's see if he can have the same impact with the Ambessa here.
Maybe fighting around mid. Handshake lands on a milkyway. However, the matchup for the Pop Blossom actually gets knocked away from him by Tarzan with a really nicely timed Crescent Guard. So that's a couple of ultimates being blown without much being traded in terms of kills. That Dragon, though, spawning in 15 seconds, and a couple of key ultis will be down for that.
I would say this is a pretty good trade right here for RNG because Zinza ult and Renata ult together. Oh, equalizer.
Oh, hold on, Niket just gets caught out here. Really nicely done by Flandre to land that equalizer. However, the matchup is going to get it sniped away as Kael will go down in response. It's both supports out of the picture. It's a 4v4 opening up now on the map. Xiaoxu playing very aggressive here, but not wanting to go too far forward. As it's still an even fight, all things considered. Remember, no equalizer, no Crescent Guard available here for AL. It means that RNG can actually be very aggressive right here.
Absolutely. They've got the Cyclone as well onto Wukong. Reminder, this is a very good weapon to get Galio and Kaisa into these key targets that Milkyway engages upon. Niket has now respawned on the map. Does have his heal available to defend himself. And RNG are just going to walk into this river. I wanted to start the Dragon and play a little bit more aggressively right here. Very key ultimates are still missing from AL. Since I will just have his offensive ultimate up and available very, very soon. 12 seconds. Can you make it work?
Okay, both supports rejoining the party now as the Dragon's already at half HP. I don't know if AL really want to contest this right now. They are not going very far forward. Tarzan's going to have to get in there soon if he wants to try to go for another flip. It went Milky Way's way last time. Will it happen again for this third Dragon of the game? 3,500. They are stalling things out. Teleport coming in. It's going to be a teleport from Flandre just to try to get some priority in the mid lane, but the Dragon has been seeded, but now Milky Way could be caught out. When Becomes Lightning does not connect. And that is enough, at least for the disengage to begin. Mid-tier 1, now the target for anyone's Legends, and they'll pick it up with ease.
Yeah, that is actually a huge pickup right here from AL. Oh, the equalizer.
Is that going to be
RNG.
anything more than just the ultimate for some poke? It looks like, yes, Niket lands a 3-man Pop Blossom, but he will get bursted down. A really nice Renata ultimate finds 2, and it should result in Xiaoxu falling. Kael over the wall with the Fate's Call as well. Very aggressive from AL, but it will result in them getting 2 kills.
RNG got a little bit dizzy. They took the Dragon, then they tried to find their way back in, but Cyclone wasn't available for Milky Way, so they couldn't really have an engage or a disengage. They got caught in their jungle in a choke point. Flandre finds the angle for a fantastic equalizer. And right now, AL, not only did they take that mid lane tier 1, they grab a couple of kills off the back of that, and Ruinous Atakan as well. And as you will see, they see that Niket is a little bit too far forward. They throw down the equalizer for a slow, and that was a great Nico ult, but that was followed up by a Renata defensive ult. Pins down Xiaoxu as well with a lot of CC, and the follow-up comes through from AL to take 2 kills for themselves. And this is what we're saying, that it's never over until it's over versus AL. RNG have pulled ahead in kills, but the gold lead still does belong to AL because they play the map so well.
Hey, you know, it happened the last time these two teams played as well. It wasn't just RNG dominating every team fight. They dropped a couple as well as AL, another team with just incredible hands. But I think if you're RNG, you can't let that demotivate you at all. You got to just keep putting on the pressure, keep going for these fights, because that is what's worked for you so far. However, the Otacon going over means a lot more damage in terms of those blood petals, a lot of experience gained towards anyone's Legends. Their gold lead of about 1,000, it's actually going to be a little bit more in terms of just projected power, because of that objective that went over to them.
Let's look now. Coming off of the base. 2 items completed, very importantly for JiaQi. Does have that Rage Blade in the bag. 2 items for that Kalista too, as well as the Rise on the other side. AL carries are absolutely fully stacked on that 2-item spike, particularly for the Rise as well. When you do have those 2 sort of stacking items is when the Rise starts coming online. But very importantly, Black Cleaver for both the Wukong and the Sensao. You've got 2 targets that this will benefit massively on the side of RNG, the Ambessa, as well as the Kaisa, who do benefit from that armor pen coming through from the Wukong. And Milky Way yet to die with a bounty on his head, looking to potentially find another opening for an RNG winning team fight.
Question is, when will that be? As there's no major objective spawning for the next 2 minutes or so. However, AL still very, very willing to go aggressive here, play the vision game, as they have dominated the top side of the map for the moment. RNG ceding control at this time, as now the tier 1 turret up there could be a target. Xiaoxu has his teleport, but right now he's at the bottom side, which means the numbers advantage goes in favor of our blue squad for now.
AL wrapping around, trying to look potentially for a punish, but they do know that RNG is around. Minute and a half until the next Dragon, and I'm looking at the bot side of the map. Xiaoxu is left all alone his own devices. They will potentially trade top lane and bot lane turrets right here, and it's exactly what's going to happen. However, this will result in nothing else. This is literally it. Slowly but surely chipping away the map. I was like looking, I'm like, surely there's something to take more on the map. There isn't. They'll just take the towers, go back, cash in on a bunch of that gold, grab a few control wards for the next Dragon. 1 minute is usually the timer where you want to be seeing teams starting to set up for Dragon. And so far, there are a few wards around the red side for RNG, but primarily they're all defensive. I would love to see some put in the backside of the pit for potentially Xiaoxu to get a nice flank TP for himself.
Yeah, I mean, if that Ambessa can get in the back line, combine that with the Galio ultimate, like, that is a great recipe for success if you are RNG. However, it seems like every single time we look at this mid lane, it's AL pushing the wave underneath the tower of RNG and JiaQi forced to clean things up. Like, they are really dominating the vision game, seemingly feeling like they are more than just 1,000 gold up, like that, like top of your scoreboard would suggest. I think a part of that is also the fact that Milky Way was on the top side of the map until right now. They're going to be late on this reset, and that means that AL had a lot of time to know exactly where RNG are standing in terms of vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like AL is one of those teams that they are really quick on the map. When they see especially 3 members on the top side of the map, they will move into Milky Way's bot quadrant and set down vision, and that is very important because this is how you can get all those flank TPs that we mentioned prior. All the equalizer actually burned from Flandre, but reminder, if you were a watcher last game, that shish is already off of cooldown almost. Halfway already gone for Flandre. Drake is going to be up, but due to the nature that you mentioned of RNG being late to the objective, they will not have the setup right there, so they would rather not take the 50-50 and play potentially set up some vision on the tops of the map and take that top lane tier 1 for themselves.
So instead of it being RNG, you know, going for a fight whenever it's possible, it's actually a couple of moments over these last couple of minutes of them deciding to play a little bit back, trying to scale up a little bit more. Maybe they're waiting for that Nashers to be completed from JiaQi, for another item to be picked up by Tangyuan or the like, before they go for a sort of 5v5 that could make or break their spot in this Group B of the LPL. Again, just the added pressure of knowing that you could potentially be sent down into that Nirvana group instantly. If you lose here, it could be very, very worrisome here for an organization as storied as RNG, right? Like they're typically known for performing very, very well in this league. And even though that hasn't necessarily been the case over the past year or so, very promising roster that they want to make sure keeps that momentum going. But right now, maybe in danger, as AL have really just had the upper hand of things as of late.
Absolutely. And very importantly, right here, Shanks TPing in to try and clear vision around Baron, has the Seeker's arm guard, which is very, very important. Can have Shanks play a little bit more aggressive onto these Ryze. A very short range machine gun mage, if you will, that actually, if you walk too close to the sun, you can get burned with some champions like the Wukong or the Galio being around. So that Seeker's arm guard could come clutch for the next fights to come. And AL are bunching up around that Baron, but I don't think they necessarily want to do the Baron. I think it's more about baiting RNG onto a bad decision-making moment so they can re-engage onto them. RNG, their responsibility right here is to pressure the waves on the bot lane and the top side of the map and just set soft vision around the Baron. There is a ward at the very back of the pit, as you can see, that control ward has not spotted out, if I'm not wrong. So they do have full control on whether this Baron is being taken down or not.
And we just had that 3-item power spike hit for JiaQi.
Oh, it's disabled.
Might be the target for RNG to try to go for this fight. As the Baron has been started up for AL. Keeping an eye on Tarzan, try to land that smite. It's already down
fast.
to half HP. Milky Way is in the area though, has flash, has the dash, has every opportunity to try to make this a flip. Equalizer comes out. Here comes Milky Way, and the engage is huge. A 4-man pop blossom of the Baron is secured by AL. Hero's entrance goes on top. Xiaoxu looking to join the party, already 2-0, and JiaQi is able to rip apart the back line. Already 4 kills. They're looking for the 5th, but Flandre is able to escape. It's the Baron going over to AL, but the team fight in favor of RNG.
5 members of AL entered, 1 comes out alive with a Baron buff to tell the tale, and it is Flandre RNG. What a fantastic wombo combo found again from the side of Milky Way, and you can see how those very short-range champions, the Rumble, the Ryze, the Kalista, really do struggle into that heavy engage that RNG have drafted for themselves. Baron going over to AL, but it is RNG taking 3 towers and 4 kills in return.
And it's another beautiful engage from Niket as well. We take another look at this replay. Milky Way doesn't get the smite, but it doesn't matter because of how well this teamfight was executed afterwards.
Wow. That was the knock-up from Wukong, the knock-up from Nico, the second knock-up from Wukong coming through as well, and Galio right on top of that. That is some very, very well-layered CC from the side of RNG, not even given the chance to flash from the side of AL. Tarzan has flash, Hope has flash. They were just not given the chance. And a reminder right here, knockups are not reduced by tenacity, and if you look on the side of RNG, I think they have 4 within the team.
It's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Put them in the trampoline park, right? And it's just like very difficult, regardless of the situation, for anyone's Legends to do anything. If you get hit by any of these ultimates from RNG, who now have themselves a gold lead despite the Baron going over to AL. You look at that Baron power play on the top left of your screen. Minus 2,000. It hasn't gone too well since they landed that smite.
Hey, Flandre is just chilling, being right. It was a winning play, right? I still have Baron, guys. goes back to base, grabs his hourglass, 100 gold up, like chilling for Flandre. Like this was a winning play for him. But all jokes aside, that is an hourglass that was completed for Flandre, and he has been a primary carry for AL. 2-1-2 on this rumble right now, and he really needs to start picking up steam. He will be chilling towards the top side of the map, but this is a dragon coming down in 30 seconds. It will be slow point for each team that secures that. Flandre will push that top lane wave, resets with the Baron buff as well. A quick reset, TP straight into that mid lane, and let's see if AL can actually make a play happen here.
Niket doesn't time the stun right with those Tangle Barbs, so Flandre will be able to get out scot-free. Dragon up in 13 seconds. And it looks like AL going to, again, generate that mid lane priority. Instead of going for the flip, they might instead just try to lock down this tier 2. Remember, Flandre still has that Baron buff for another 10 seconds. It will allow for that turret to go down. They could even look for a second.
Oh, surely not. Surely not. Surely you're not taking inhibitor tower as RNG are securing the third dragon of the game. AL, what a fantastic quick macro play on the map. Let's see if RNG can actually find some sort of flank. It's not going to be the case. milkyway, JiaQi, and JiaQi are actually going to press their B buttons. Now milkyway is pinging towards the bot side of the map. The second they see him on the bot wave, they're surely going to go for the inhibitor itself.
Okay, instead going for a flank, Tarzan dashes forward. Niket able to use the rocket belt to escape. And now here comes milkyway. He was biding his time. He's in full vision, but it would still be a massive flank for RNG if he's able to find it. The Wukong is hunting. He's hungry. He's looking for hope. The knockup doesn't connect on the first try, but the public execution will. On to Tarzan, and the Jin Zhao is already down. Niket not able to do much with the Pop Blossom. Taunted up is Flandre, and the overheated Rumble will likely go down with the Justice Punch connecting. Flandre will go golden. However, Kael and Hope are still very strong. Flandre will get the bailout, but will finally fall in response. A 3-man taunt from Tangyuan might be enough here for RNG. Shanks will die, but look at Hope. He's still full HP. He lands the spear, and there's not enough damage on RNG to let the Callista live.
What an incredible play by Flandre. 3 members burning down on that flamethrower while he's sitting in Zonias, sitting in stasis right there. What a fantastic play overall by AL, and this is why they're one of the best teams in the LPL right now. The quick thinking of pressuring that mid lane tower because they didn't have the setup to move into the Dragon. They didn't have the push waves. However, they used that one Baron buff that they had to push that mid lane. And look at that defense right here. They do see milkyway. However, Flandre is going to move forward away from the Galliol landing, and not a lot of that CC was piled up perfectly like we saw in the previous fight. The Pop Blossom will find no one, and just look at Flandre overheating, and then he comes out of the overheat, throws his flamethrower, and instantly goes into Zonias, burning 4 members of RNG who are just sitting around getting absolutely toasted in this oven.
And then I guess the bailout to live even longer than that. I will say a lot of RNG's initial engage tools didn't land onto Hope. And you can see how hard he was able to carry the back end of that fight after Flandre did a bunch of the dirty work. Flashing forward to take down JiaQi as well. And things could have gotten a lot worse for them if any of those spells landed onto Callista.
That was an 800 gold shutdown that Flandre took off of that as well. Straight into Magic Pen. Blighting Jewel, if I'm not wrong, in his inventory. On the other side, though, for RNG, 5-1-5 from Xiaoxu, 1-0-12 for Tangyuan on that Galio. And I will say, we asked for the solo lanes of RNG to step up to help milkyway, and they absolutely have in those 2 games. Back-to-back, RNG carrying the momentum over their Ultra Prime game and now having complete control around this Baron pit. AL are going to have to try and find a way to enter because they don't necessarily have any tanky member to be able to face check that, and there's so much CC on the side of RNG. If you face check the wrong bush, you die.
Once one ultimate comes out, the rest can follow here for RNG. So many engaged tools at their disposal that can be stacked on top of each other. And now it is them with priority over the topside river with the Baron buff spawning and now available for the taking once again. JiaQi has that upgraded W, so he'll be able to issue a ton of long-range poke to prevent from AL getting anywhere close to the pit.
And I really love what they're doing right there, using that Nico. JiaQi throws the W through the Fog of War, and then Niket walks up forward from that brush, sort of giving the illusion that this was actually the Kai'Sa that was throwing the W. It's not quite the case. It has been 2 Kai'Sas on the map for the longest time ever right here for Niket, trying to find his Pop Blossoms, distinguishing himself as someone else. And Tarzan trying to slowly but surely chip some vision for the side of AL, trying to figure out if that Baron is going to go down. RNG have been depriving AL of vision, but they haven't necessarily even been starting the Baron either. I think RNG is just looking for an angle to get an engage in.
Yeah, because the engage is where they thrive. It's not necessarily in the macro play. So far, AL have been better in that regard. But RNG have won those last 2 team fights, and that's all that matters right now. Realm Warp is coming out, but it's just a bit of a bait, as it might have tried to force RNG a little bit too far forward. But without that ultimate, it means that now milkyway and JiaQi will start the Baron.
Absolutely, AL are going to have to find a way to get in there. Tarzan, space check-in.
Shanks gets rooted, but nobody wants to follow up on that. Public execution was available from Xiaoxu, but there's a lot of defensive tools available on that rise. It's been very difficult to take him down. 35 minutes into this game, and even though Trouble, RNG have won the last couple of team fights, AL knows that they just need one to take control of this game.
And here comes where the dance begins, Grapes. 10 seconds for the dragon is going to be soul for RNG, and of course, a mountain soul with 3 mounted dragons in the bag is going to be such huge shield, big defenses for RNG. Great if you're playing against an uber-fed Rumble and a Rise that's been scaling towards that late game. And Tarzan is going to stick around, but he is pretty lonely right now. His team is pressuring that mid lane wave.
Oh.
Milky Way, can you take that 50-50 one more time?
Big poke, big engage. Look at the ultimate here from Milky Way. It lands on Hope as well. Combined with that pop loss, it might be enough. Hope still doing a lot of damage and not going down just yet. And Niket is the first casualty in the fight. But AL have gotten one back onto Milky Way. It is so far a 2-for-1. A 4v3 opened up on the map for anyone's Legends as Hope refuses to go down. He has turned into a monster here in this game.
If RNG do not stack their CC correctly, AL get out. And that's exactly what happened right here. It's so important for AL to not group up too much as they entered those neutral objectives. And AL were able to actually secure that teamfight victory, take away Soul from RNG, put themselves on Soul point, and threaten the Baron. There is no Milky Way around for another 20 seconds, so it's not just 13, it's just straight up taking it away. No smites available, so we could potentially see a steal right here.
Okay. They spotted it out.
Tangyuan?
Again,
Tangyuan?
numbers advantage here for AL. Here comes Tangyuan, only landing the taunt onto 1, and the Ren will secure the Baron and another kill onto the Galio. It was a valiant effort, but knowing that the Kalista had the Ren to secure the objective, maybe a little bit too aggressive for RNG, as they now find themselves in a deficit as we take a look back at this fight.
Yeah, let's watch this one more time. Tarzan right here has the GA, and Milky Way does find the backline, but look how far away Niket is, and oh! Shanks stops the Galio entrance from coming in, and that was the difference maker for this one. Tarzan also earned so much time for AL with that GA, going straight back in. Flandre misclicks his hourglass right there, doesn't even need to click it at this point. And what a fantastic find. Thank you so much, Observer. Shanks stopping the entrance from Tangyuan was huge.
Yeah, and Shanks has had a bit of a quiet game so far, but he's all of a sudden like very, very strong in this game and providing some very important utility in these fights as well. You know, the Realm Warp to get over to the Baron quicker after the fight was already won, and then the Brain to just go and stop Tangyuan from issuing that hero's entrance. That would have certainly meant Hope would die, but a really nicely timed route means that that is not the case, and now AL have the Baron for another 3 or 4 waves and try to break open an inhibitor at this point.
And I want you to very closely look at items as well. Hourglass, GA, Hourglass, GA. Who do you dive? How does JiaQi press R and not end up in a very sticky situation where somebody goes into stasis from the side of AL? Now, this is a very tough cookie to crumble for RNG. They need to try and find targets that they can take down. The only one available right now is Tarzan, missing his GA for the time being. Can RNG pile up their CC properly to take AL down?
And there's not a lot of wave clear available for RNG, so it means that that tier 3 will fall. Now the inhibitor in the bottom lane could be the target. Niket throwing out that clone of the Wukong to at least make them a little bit worried. And it looks like that's the second inhibitor falling in favor of anyone's Legend. They have a big advantage over the map right now, although the gold is still only about 3,000, and there's still a lot of firepower on this RNG composition. The problem, Trouble, is they have not found the engages that they've been looking for.
Yeah, and I feel like milkyway really does need his flash together with Niket. If these two can pile up the knockups, this is what doesn't get reduced by tenacity. So AL cannot necessarily evade them if they do not have their flashes available. And if you look on both the portraits, milkyway's and Niket's flashes will come up before Shanks and before Hope. So if you can manage to find those two very key targets with the engage, this could very well be an RNG win into a straight up take that mid lane wave all the way to victory.
There's one last inhibitor left. Only 10 seconds on this Baron buff, so this is the last opportunity that they'll have with the empowered minions. Equalizer comes out as Flandre knows that they can try to pressure out RNG and claim this final inhibitor tier 3 turret. But RNG could have the opportunity to go for a re-engage. Milky Way was looking aggressively, but AL know better and will back out.
That is going to be a very, very empty base. Only one inhibitor left for RNG. They need to constantly defend a minute and 15 seconds around for the next dragon. This is going to be soul for both of these teams right here. And RNG need to figure out a way to get out of base because the super minions will constantly be pushing over in the bot lane and mid lane for AL. More item completions coming through. 4 items for the Rise right now. 4 items and a needed large rod for Flandre's Rumble, who has done absolute miracles to turn fights around. Flandre is such a pivotal player for AL this game, a 4,000 gold lead for AL, but this is as close as ever with RNG having one more fight into their pocket. Can they find the key targets?
It's going to probably be around this dragon. It's actually going to be sold for either team, depending on who picks it up. That's very big, especially specifically for AL, who right now are at risk of getting Kaisa W to Oblivion. That Mountain Soul going to help them a ton in that regard. Niket in a little bit of trouble here. Just gets knocked up. Not even going to use the Summoner Spell until maybe too late. He's only at 400 HP. Equalizer over it, and he back too early. Caught window shopping, and Flandre will make it a 4v5 on the map.
That was so greedy. You knew you were getting wrapped around both sides of this Wolf's Pit. There should have been an early flash coming through from Niket. Wasn't quite the case. And also, he does take away a lot of that threat of the re-engage together with the Wukong when you have that Nico. Now that is a triple Mountain Soul for AL. If the double GAs, the Bloodthirster, the double Hourglasses were not enough defenses, surely this is it. And RNG's hopes for the Wombo combo are slowly shattering as all those minions are entering their base. I feel like they're going to really want to hope for that huge Wombo combo that could potentially catch anyone off guard from AL to take him down. But it's just become really difficult.
And soon to be all 3 inhibitors down, most likely, as RNG really turtled into their base right now. We're going to try to find an engage. Flash away from Hope to make sure that knockup doesn't connect, but the Pop Blossom will. Hope still, though, untouched on this backline, and anyone's Legends just ripping apart RNG at the moment. Milky Way will fall. The knockup connects onto JiaQi, and the Kaisa will not be the savior of Royal Never Give Up this game. It is going to be anyone's Legends with a clean ace as they head towards the base and finish off the group stage at 5-1.
Fool them once. Shame on you. Fool them twice. Shame on them. It's not going to be the case. AL clean out this game. They proved that it was a fluke that they lost to RNG the first time around. RNG made it as hard as possible. But I feel like AL, they were so clever. Once the correct items came through, the double Hourglass, the double Zonias as well. Like, there were just no targets that you could freely engage and 100-0 them that quickly. RNG did not close out the series fast enough. They let a lot of dragons go over to anyone's Legend by getting caught around the map. And they just couldn't capitalize before those big items came through.
Yeah, still some promise overall for RNG. Like, the fact that they won some of those team fights early on was very, very impressive. But not enough for them to win this game against, again, one of the most dominant teams that we have here in the LPL. And what that means is that, again, their fate not necessarily in their hands. There's a chance that they could play a tiebreaker match for that 3rd place, which would let them be in that little mix of the brackets after the group stage is done. But that is not guaranteed, and it definitely depends on the result of this next game, Ultra Prime versus Thunder Talk, which is going to be very, very important.
Oh yeah, a lot of teams are now sitting on 2 wins. Literally, all 3 teams except from AL are sitting on a 2-3 and 2-4 right now for RNG as well. So the next game is going to be very, very important. Making it onto that group ascent is going to be of pivotal importance if you want to play with the big dogs and have a chance to prove yourself. And I think TT and Ultra Prime have done themselves justice through that group. However, for RNG, what a sad end to this particular game. I felt like the momentum was sort of carrying over, if you will, from their Ultra Prime series, and they did have the tools. They played for that fist fight. We want them to play for the fist fight, and they did play for the fist fight. But getting caught, AL are just gonna instantly punish you. They took too many towers. They took too long to finish the game, and AL just had all the answers with their itemization.
And you mentioned it yesterday when LNG played this similar strategy against Invictus Gaming, where they just repeatedly went for these fights. Unfortunately, not enough at the end of the day. Sometimes the better team does win in those hands checks. Sometimes, and it looks like that happened here. And a big shout out, I think, to Flandre on the Rumble, who did so much in terms of impact in those team fights, zone control with the equalizer. I mean, obviously this guy's so familiar on this champion as he's been playing it for many years at this point, but it's very cool to see it in full display and in full action against a team like RNG.
Absolutely. I feel like particularly there was one fight where he just about presses his flamethrower as he's about to go into stasis, and literally in the last millisecond before that hourglass comes through, he just turns direction and burns 4 members as he sits into stasis on that hourglass. And these are literally the small moments, the small details, if you will, of those plays that can turn a whole team fight from a losing play to an ultra winning play. It allowed Hope to gain a lot of momentum in this particular fight to take away all the HP bars from the side of RNG. Again, a little bit late for RNG to wake up right here, but they can still make their way up from that group Nirvana.
And honestly, even if they don't, I feel like I'm confident enough in this team that they'll at least have a chance to make it out of that group Nirvana if they get there, the way that they're playing right now. Surely, there's a lot of good teams in the LPL, but you just have to be not bottom 2 in order to avoid that elimination and to prevent yourself from being eliminated fully for split 3.
Surely.
I feel like that's such a cutthroat format. I mean, surely. The way that they're playing right now, the fact that they took 2 games against 2 different opponents, that has to mean something in some capacity. I feel like RNG was a team that even in split number 1, like, had a tough go of things just because of the group that they were in. They were in the IG group last time around, and the NIP group. They ended up losing both of those series, but they showed promise even in those matches as well, and looking like they're continuing to show that promise, but not necessarily getting over that hump just yet.
Yeah, and for anyone's legend, I feel like it was a great showing through the group. They have showed their cracks, specifically in the early game, and I feel like when it comes to like those really big teams, like your IGs, like your anyone's legends, like your top esports of the world, I feel like when you start the fist fight, they sort of like get drawn in. This is the essence of the LPL, baby. Look at that graph. That is what the LPL gold graph should look like in any series. Flandre, 38.6k damage on that Rumble. And this is not your placebo type of shapes with like Corkis and Ezreals and Pokes and stuff. No, that was pure damage through those team fights, through fist fighting. He was a difference maker. 40% of his team's damage share. He was almost his entire team's half damage. That is nuts.
Yeah, I know Xiaoxu had a good Rumble game last game, but I think Flandre might have actually even
maybe
added on top of that if you get a look at some of these replays.
Who knows?
Here. Yeah, maybe the champion is just strong. I feel like it's been in the meta a while, and all the top laners like to play it. But yeah, taking a look at this replay again. If the gold graph doesn't look like your heart rate while watching the game, then what are we doing? This is the perfect LPL experience.
And this is actually kind of sad to watch because RNG were doing so well in the early game. But again, I will pin it down to itemization. They had a very all-in team, a very quote-unquote assassin type of team. But you do not have a lot of consistent damage. You've got a lot of backline access, a lot of assassination, but you do not have distance. Once you're all in, you're all in. So once all the defensive items came through, you also have a Renata that gives you the bailout. You've got the Renata ult. So there were defensive ways for AL to play a little bit peel back, but that was an incredible fight. The knock-up from the Wukong ult into the knock-up from Nico, into the knock-up from the second Wukong ult coming through from RNG. That was one of the most beautiful layering of CC that we have seen in a while.
And at that moment, I was like, okay, RNG, they're going to do it. They're finally going to have the opportunity. But then you look at actually when this fight took place, it was actually like
Flandre
a while
happened.
After. Yeah. Flandre got strong. The carries were allowed to scale.
Boom.
And I feel like RNG had opportunities to go for fights when they didn't. And then finally, when they decided to go for one, Flandre just became an absolute monster.
That was exactly the moment that I talked about. Last millisecond, turns around with his flamethrower, presses Zonia's 4 members of RNG were just getting slow cooked from that flamethrower. That was a complete winning fight from RNG, and Flandre tended completely around, and that was where Shanks turned this one around as well by stopping the grand entrance from coming in. Hold on, is it grand entrance from Galio or Rakan? Am I saying this right?
Heroes entrance.
Heroes entrance. Grand entrance is Rakan. Okay,
Galio.
fair enough.
Yeah.
There you go. They're both entrances.
They've got similar effects, you know.
Yeah.
Knock up, dashing in. Except one is an ultimate, I guess.
Yeah. Taunt, kind of. Although I think Rakan's is a charm, I think.
Yeah.
Taunt,
have
charm.
a similar effect on the game.
Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah.
Tangyuan, I feel like overall had a pretty good game. It just was not enough at the end of the day, as you know, Shanks was really quiet at the start of that on the Rise, but all of a sudden his tier stacked up, his Rod of Ages stacked up, and he was suddenly level 16 at 30 minutes and was able to have some really crucial plays in that one as well. Although I will say, MVP probably going towards Flandre here.
I have a feeling he might also go towards Hope. I feel like Hope had a pretty good game, but the way Flandre actually influenced that mid lane fight, I feel like if AL had lost that mid lane fight where he just turns around and burns 4 people at once and gets the shutdown on milkyway as he's about to die, I feel like anyone's legend would be in very, very deep waters, and they would also be in a huge, huge gold deficit that they couldn't turn around. So I really hope it goes to Flandre. He had a fantastic game. Hey, that's him.
Had to be at that point. 40% damage share, as you mentioned, a big carry in some of those team fights. Flandre having a terrific performance overall as anyone's legends. They falter to RNG the first time, but they come out on top this time, end up 5-1 here in Group B. But we got one more matchup left here in the group stage schedule, and even the potential chance for a tiebreaker. We'll break down all those scenarios for you and get you set up for Thunder Talk versus Ultra Prime